Okay.
Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday. Welcome into Wednesday edition of the Computer America Show. It's a little pre-show that we do about a minute before the show begins. Mike Cermak, owner-operator of TechGuy.org, is going to be joining us in the first hour. He may have to leave before the hour is over, though. Small emergencies come up, but he'll be with us. And then the second hour, and maybe in that time before that, we'll do computer and technology news. That's going to be brought to you by Slimware Utilities. They are the official optimization software of Computer America. So sit back, relax, as we bring to you the dulcet tones of Computer America. 2 hours, in fact, for right here.
I wish I sounded like Gilbert Gottfried. He's actually rather relaxing to me.
Yeah, really.
Reminds me of my mother.
Okay.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live, it's America's longest-running national radio talk show on computers, Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. Look for Craig's weekly column in your favorite newspaper. This show is being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. Keep it here for technology news, computer products, guest interviews, and your phone calls. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello, and welcome into the Computer America Show. It's the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. Computer America is heard around the world and coast to coast. And I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And welcome into a Wednesday edition of the Computer America Show. I guess it's officially Hump Day here at Computer America. Even though it was a short week, we had the Monday off because of the Memorial Day holidays, but it is Wednesday. It is the middle of the week. Regardless. And we have a terrific show planned for you, as always. In the second hour, we're going to bring to you computer and technology news. That's always brought to you by Slimware Utilities. They are the official optimization software of Computer America. And in the first hour, we have TechGuy.org is going to be joining us because it's the first Wednesday of the month. Oh my gosh, is it June already? What happened to May?
I know. Where did it go?
I don't know. It just flew on by. Yeah, it's the 1st of June. I guess it's officially summer now, right? Yeah. It is summertime. And
I believe Memorial Day is like the official, unofficial start of the summer season.
It's the unofficial official start. Okay.
Hey, see, you got to cover your bases.
I see. Okay. Well,
because if you don't do both of those, then who knows?
Yeah. So unofficially and officially, we are in summer time, and and
I'm just saying. I heard it reported on the local news as the unofficial start of summer. I think like the technical date was like there's like a specific date that goes from spring to summer, but to a lot of people, the unofficial start is the Memorial Day weekend when you go out and you have your barbecue and your pool opening ceremony, yada yada yada. So it's summer, I think, is the short and skinny of all this,
as opposed to the astrological signs and beginning of the summer time. Maybe I know Mars was at its closest point in 20 some odd years to Earth. It was this big red dot in the sky. I saw it last night. Really, really big. I think it was Mars.
It might have just been a plane.
It could have been. No, that was. This wasn't blinking.
It was the Russians. We know this.
Satellite that they painted red. No, and then I could see Jupiter as well, and I could see Mars. It helped me to locate it. I have one of those apps from my iPhone that I can point it to the sky and it will tell me everything that I'm looking at, which I think is kind of
That is pretty amazing. I've used that before as well, the Google Sky, and I think there's some other ones out there now as well. You can point up there and look at where the constellations are.
Yeah, mine actually gives you some nice music to accompany.
But does it have directions? It's like,
Yes.
4.3 billion light years until Alpha Centauri or whatever. So,
then turn left.
And turn left. It's like, okay, let's see. Do you want to bike that, walk that, spaceship that? I don't know.
Spaceship that.
You get all those little landmarks. They're in this. I guess those would be sky marks or.
Now,
fake.
do they make an app that you can point up to the sky and it'll show you like the nearby flights? Because I know they have the Flight Watch thing where you can see flights going over your head. But do they have that artificial reality thing like they, the augmented reality like they have for constellations?
I've never heard of that.
I've never heard of that, but I'm sure it must be out there. I mean,
that would freak me out because if you've ever seen like one of the maps of all the flights that are currently going on, it's like, how are they not hitting each other? There's so many.
I tracked him with an app when he took the plane. We went out to CES, and that freaked him out too. Because tracking. I could tell him when he was in the air, when he landed, when he was at the gate. I could.
I'm talking about all the flights all over the U.S.
There's a lot of them. I was flying my plane into Johnstown a couple years ago with a friend of mine, and the tower called and said, there's traffic at your 12 o'clock and 4 miles and whatever, and we didn't see each other. You could hear them talking to the other pilot and talking to me, and for whatever reason, the way the light was, for the whatever reason, we couldn't see one another, and my friend was getting a little anxious because we're just flying right at one another, and eventually the controller's like, all right, turn left 090 or whatever it was.
I mean, for those of you watching, and I know we haven't done our preamble yet, but we do have a video portion, and if you're watching that, you can see the active flights here, and kind of taking it back to virtual reality, if you could just kind of look up and see, oh my God, you would never leave the house because there are planes out there.
That would be augmented reality because you would be actually the sky. And
you're right. It would.
It would be reality, and as you see the plane approaching, your location, heading to you nose first. That would
closer and closer and closer, and then you begin to wish that it had been virtual reality.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. All right, well, as I mentioned in the second hour, we're going to do computer and technology news brought to you by Slimware Utilities. They are the official optimization software of Computer America. And in the first hour, we're going to be talking to Mike Cermak, owner-operator of TechGuide.org. He's going to be joining us in the first hour. Again, if you have a comment or question, give us a call at 347-884-8881. We'll get you on and get you through. Any page at computeramerica.com, in the upper right-hand corner, it says Submit a Question. It's a link. Click it. You'll go to our question submission page. You can type in your comment or question, hit the Submit button, and Ben and I will see it immediately. The other thing is you can also watch the Computer America show. Again, at any page at computeramerica.com, it says Show Lounge. Just click it. You'll be taken to our live video streaming page. You'll join the show already in progress, and you can watch everything. Ben actually has the technology to display websites, movies, videos, links, everything. He's displaying air flight patterns right now globally. You can watch all of this. And, of course, Mike Cermak, you can see him as well. He's with us in speaking of Mike Cermak, I should probably introduce him. He is the owner-operator of TechGuide.org, a website dedicated to helping others with their computer problems and answering their questions. And if you're looking for free technical support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, TechGuide.org is the right place for you to be. It's been around since 1996, and Mike's site is run completely by volunteers and paid for completely by donations and sponsors. And he is one of our Computer America correspondents who appears on the show every first Wednesday of the month. Mike, welcome into Computer America. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, sir. How about yourself?
Doing fine. Now I understand you may have to leave a little early today. You've got something. You had something better to do than to be here with us on computer.
That's what it was, exactly. It was such a beautiful day out, and I thought, I don't really want to talk to Craig for a full hour. Maybe I'll just make it 45 minutes, and that'll make it easier.
So you might.
You can do that?
Yeah.
I gotta start taking advantage of that.
Yes. So you might be this, and because of that, we decided we're not going to have any trivia today. I know, no trivia.
We'll have to make it a special one next time.
Yeah, we'll have to that because and we didn't have trivia last time either, but we just.
That's true. I think I have a quiz that I had made for last time.
But it's expired. You can't use it anymore.
What?
That could be. Yeah. He's saying that because I didn't give him the topic in advance this time, so he doesn't want to.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, did the subject matter kind of go out of relevance? I don't know. Did you do it on the cotton gin? Why is it not relevant anymore?
First of all, the cotton gin is still a pretty amazing piece of technology.
Fair enough.
Eli Whitney's cotton gin.
Well, and Craig's been studying. All right, I got to make a note. Next month, quiz is going to be on the cotton gin.
Oh no.
How
Craig
many,
was there. That's unfair. That's home
No,
field
last-
advantage.
how many
Last week we had talked about the Android Wear. I actually had one of the Android Wear watches that I was trying out, and so I'd done a little quiz, wrote up a little quiz on that. So that has not completely expired, so we may hit that.
Yeah.
unless they come out with a new version between now and then.
That's the rumor. I heard that in the next month or two, a new version of Android Wear is supposed to be coming out.
Yeah, that's right. And, but we talk about things that are relevant, and one of the things that we started talking about yesterday on our computer news section was Intel, because of the big convention that's going on in Taipei.
Computex in
Computex.
Taipei, Taiwan.
Right, it's a very big convention. Intel unveiled their next generation processor, 10 cores. So
Yeah, that's a lot of cores.
Yeah.
That is a lot of CPU power. I mean, 10 cores can handle 20 threads, which just means your computer can be doing an awful lot of things all at the same time. And it's most useful on any kind of really intense processor heavy work. If you're doing 3D gaming or virtual reality, or even if you're creating videos, trying to render videos, anything like that, where the bottleneck is the CPU, this thing's going to be pretty incredible.
Yeah, you haven't had hands-on with it yet. I do know that some of the companies are already coming out with it. Origin PC is offering a version with this new processor. There were a couple of companies that were offering it better.
The problem with it, of course, as with any new, awesome, amazing technology, is it's damn expensive. Can I say that on here? Oops. It's darn expensive. I'm gonna get kicked out of it before the 45 minutes are up. The processor itself is $1,700 for the processor. Yeah, I mean that's what, 3 or 4 times more than most people pay for the computer.
Yeah, that is
just for the chip.
So
obviously it's a very narrow field that they're going after. It's for gamers, it's for people who are doing video rendering, it's people who are doing game development, it's for people who have $1,700 for a freaking processor. But as with everything else, that's it's just a matter of time before that price comes down dramatically.
And that's just the processor. We're getting into the graphics cards and everything else that you're going to need to build the system.
That's right. And this thing supports 4 discrete graphics cards, and it has up to 25 megabytes of cache on the chip. 25 megabytes of cache on the chip? That's crazy. It's a cool processor. It's not the first 10-core processor ever. It's not even Intel's first 10-core processor, but it's their first desktop 10-core processor. They've had.
That's the thing. It's aimed at the consumer. This is a consumer. Right. This is not some server, blade, whatever.
Right.
This is a consumer-oriented processor. So people who are into, and let's face it, that's the people who have all the money are the gamers anyway. I mean, look at all these high prizes, millions of dollars worth of prizes, and
well, and more than that, I think that's the target audience, because those are the people who care about the speed of their computer. It used to be the average person would be shopping the specs on computers, and I want at least so many gigs of RAM, and I want a processor at least this speed, and people don't even care anymore. They don't even care. I mean, your average PC is going to surf Facebook and check email just as well as any other one.
How fast does the word processor need to run? I mean, come on, exactly.
That's right, exactly. And it's so that's why this sort of stuff is targeted toward the gamers, because they're the only people who, not the only, but they're one of the few segments of the audience who still care about the speed of their computer and still want to have the fastest possible computer. They get a couple extra frames per second, and that may be a big difference to them as far as the game goes.
I mean,
that could be a win or lose.
Gamer rigs are so fast; they're incredibly and sensitive. Get this, Ben was noticed that he was looking at his computer yesterday, and his mouse cursor. He wasn't touching it. His mouse cursor started moving across the screen, and he couldn't figure out what it was. His mouse is so sensitive that it picked up the vibration on his table.
There's more to that. Like, I now have my desktop computer sitting on my desk, which I know you're supposed to put on the ground and away from your computer. But anywho. I recently purchased Overwatch, great game, having a lot of fun on it. It kept causing my computer to crash, and find out that it was a heat problem. And Mike, I don't know if you ever heard about this, but if this happens to anyone else out there, the the motherboard and the BIOS and things like that are supposed to control the fan speed to better cool down your processor and your graphics card. Well, mine were heating up so fast that they didn't really give the fans a chance to go to 100%. So like they'd be at 30%, 40%, and then they'd hit 90 degrees Celsius, and they and then they lock up. So I downloaded this program, turned all my fans up to 100% all the time. Now it sounds like I'm in a wind tunnel, but now I'm operating at 50 degrees Celsius instead of 70 or 80. So,
I walked into his room and I heard this incredible thing. As it was, and I watched. And
in case anyone out there didn't know what a fan sounded like, that was Craig's reenactment.
Yeah, can we hear that again?
His hair was blown back. I mean, it was like the guy was, the old commercial was listening to the speakers. His hair was blown back. I was like, "What the heck is that noise?" And that's what it was. He's got
that would be my space heater. And so with all my fans turned up to 100%. And by the way, did you know the Titan X goes up to 4,800 RPM?
I did not know that. 4,800 RPM. Holy cow.
Yeah, I know, and it's still clocking 60 to about 60 to 70 Celsius, so it's still working overtime. But at any rate, the fan speed, because they're all turned up, my mouse is I actually have it set to I want to say 14. I want to say about 14,000 DPI. So just the vibration from the fans in my case were causing my mouse to drift.
14,000 DPI.
Yeah.
So you just look at your mouse and your cursor moves.
Across the entire 3 screens that he has too.
I have 3 screens, so I can go from the left of one screen to the right of the far screen with about an inch.
Yeah, my hands don't move that precisely. That wouldn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyways, that's the long and short of it. If anyone out there,
so the fans were blowing so hard or vibrating so hard it moved the mouse.
Yep.
Enough to have this.
So So if you have a drifting mouse, it may be that. If you have a locking up computer because of a new video game, it might be your fans not operating at 100%. Just little things.
That's become better known as the West Palm Beach drift. The effect now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Boo.
Boo.
I like that. So back to the i7 processors, we did talk about them the other day, and and Mike, I really like your input on this. Don't get me wrong, 10 cores, that's amazing. If you stream video games, play video games, also listen to music, also edit video, also edit pictures, also do this, also do that, then that processor sounds really cool. But the overall speed, I think, right here's the chart. It was only coming in at about 3.5 gigahertz per core, and that doesn't sound like a lot. But I mean, consider that the two price points down, you still an i7, and admittedly it's only 6 and 12 cores and threads, but it goes up to 3.8. And what I'm hearing from a lot of circles is that they make these motherboards that actually have 2 processor sockets, so you can put 2 processors in at the same time. And price-wise, $617, still expensive, but you buy 2 $617 and a dual-socket motherboard, and you get faster speeds, more cores, and and all for about $300 less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're probably right. That would probably work out better. It's and the top of the line thing is always going to be more expensive. So the thing to do is exactly that: is to look at the next one down or the next 2 down, and that's really where your price point's going to make more sense. Say it again.
You look 1 or 2 down, and then you double up. So then.
Sure. Heck yeah. Yep, that would work fine. Well, and that's where a lot of these 10-core processors were in the past. Like we have a couple customers with the Xeon Xeon servers, where we have Xeon processors in them, and a lot of those have dual chips in them.
Yeah, and the dual chip, admittedly, it is more server oriented, but I mean, it might be worth exploring if you're, kind of $1,700 was such a huge price point that, admittedly, if money is no object, hey, all of a sudden you now have this i7, 10-core processor available to you, and you can have 2 of those. Great, good for you. But as for, kind of the price for performance-wise, you know, the i7 6850K, which is again 2 down, just looks so much more attractive at, you know, $600 instead of $1,700.
Yeah. The other question though is you may have to pay the extra $300 just for a motherboard that supports dual sockets. I haven't seen, and I'm sure they make them. I've seen dual socket Xeon boards and several different types of processors. I've never seen that, but that's not to say that it's not made. I was just doing a quick search to see if I could find one.
I found a couple of them. Like there are gaming companies that actually make motherboards that are designed for dual socket.
And how much more is that motherboard versus your normal motherboard?
Motherboards, I think, run you about 170 pops immediately to mind, but you know, $150 to $200 depending on what deals you get.
For a dual socket? You're telling me the baseline.
No, for basic, and the dual socket, it's about, you know, $250, $350, somewhere in that.
Wow, I can't believe it's that cheap.
Yeah,
because I would just think the demand would be so low on those. Like, how many of those can they possibly sell? I would think that just by economies of scale that it would be much more expensive than your average one.
Evidently, it's more popular than you think because they're selling a lot.
Maybe I'm just getting old. You know, my Solitaire and Wolfenstein seem to work fine on this. You know.
Well,
I don't know what game kids are playing these days, but
here's one by a company called Supermicro, $300, and they have one from Asus, and admittedly, Gigabyte has one for $650, so you know, something like that. But you could definitely find them in the $250 to $350 range.
And you'd have to check to see what speed processor they'll take.
Right. Advantages or disadvantages of other than name brand? You know, does the name brand offer more features or abilities?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So you're still getting what you pay for then.
Mm-hmm. Right. And again, you know, you may have to spend that money. Like even if it's $600 for two, that's $1,200. And then even if you have to spend, let's say, up to $500 for a dual socket gaming motherboard, you're still going to come out to about the price of one. But then you get the extra cores because you have two. So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact.
No, I think you're right. I'm looking at even the cache and so on, and you'd still be ahead with two processors than with one. I would suspect, you know, you'd have to run some. It would be interesting to run some tests on it. If you had, you know, a computer with just a single with just a single 10-core processor and one with an equivalent, you know, 2-core, if you would lose something just by the overhead of having two instead of one and having to split those, and I mean, there'd be some overhead of managing the two processors and sending threads to one or the other. But I wonder if it would add up to much of anything. Either way, it's going to be a really fast computer.
Well, you can mix and match then on the dual socket motherboards. You can mix processors, or they have to be identical.
I don't personally. I don't like. I've always gone under the assumption that it's just like you know, two graphics cards. You always kind of want to make sure they're the same model, if not, you know, kind of really close in model.
Yeah, I know with the Xeon servers that we've built that we've always done them the same. I don't know for sure that you have to. I've never came up before, to be honest.
Yeah, well, you see, but these things do surface.
In Craig's mind, everything is possible.
Well,
what if you do a dual processor with two of the 10-core chips?
Be very expensive.
Well, I think Computer America needs to do this as a test, and I'd be willing to
benchmarks. I think you're right.
Right. Yeah. Ben and I need to do some benchmarks here.
Yeah. We'll get into on the line, and no, but two i10 you know, two 10 cores, that, like, it sounds excessive, but at that point you're just getting into like the server space where, like, technically you're not really running like that kind of computing power has been around before, but it's for like, oh, you know, you are connected to a network of 20 computers. They're going to be pulling resources off of that one server.
Right. But a lot of times those computers, the servers and the motherboards and even the cache is set up so differently than what you'd want for a gaming computer. They're not video intense. I mean, servers often don't even have a monitor connected. They sure as heck, you know, it's designed for, you know, onboard motherboard, and not that you can't play games on them, not that you can't put a decent video card in it, but it's just, you know, not designed for that.
Right.
And I mean, I think you're going to get a lot better performance out of something like this.
Oh, trust me, I keep myself awake at night when I think about, okay, I'm going to want a dual socket motherboard with two 10-core i7 processors and three 1080s from Nvidia. Like I keep myself awake with like $7,000 to $8,000 computer rigs.
Yep. Which will be worth 1,000 in 2 years.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They're not like fine cars.
It's so painful to see that, because especially if you I mean, look at the Xbox One that Ben just got recently. Already, it's like old.
Well, I kept myself off of Xbox One for about a year until the price dropped, and I saved myself until it was about $350, and I was like, okay, that's low enough for me. And then just for the holidays, they lowered it down to $300. I kicked myself for that, and then.
We see that Ben bought one. Let's go ahead and reduce the price now.
And then out at E3, there's a rumor that they're going to be dropping it down to 300, like permanently. Like the new price point is 300. So.
Yeah, because the new model, it's going to have more abilities or features and faster.
That happens everywhere with everything. Yeah, that's what happens.
That's the name of the game that we're in.
Yep.
And it's only speeding up. It's happening more and more quickly.
But while we're talking about processors, and fun fact for everyone. Just a couple days ago, what was kind of suitable, what was top end about 2 days ago, it's the Intel i7 6700K processor. Like up until the announcement of these latest processors out in Taipei, it was the top of the game. The price point for those actually dropped to about $340.
Yeah.
So I think about $100. So. They're still very, very fast, and like it's not like they've gone to like the new architecture. It's not like they've gone from the 14 to 10. So if you're looking for a good price for what to jump into, the old best is cheaper and still really good.
That's what I usually do. Is exactly what you're suggesting. Is with anything with technology. If you look at just the last model, the one that was just replaced or just about to be replaced in this case, are these things even available retail yet? I don't think
no,
they are.
Not yet.
So you're still buying the top of the line processor that you can buy today, but it's just at a huge discount because this thing's coming around the corner with 20%, 30% better performance, and it's still compared to what everything else is. Yeah.
Right, and
you're
again,
getting it for a fifth of the price.
Yeah, seriously, and again, 4 days ago it was the best out there. So.
Right. Yep.
Not really missing too much out of it. AMD. I don't know if we want to talk a little bit about AMD. What you've heard about them, but from what I understand about AMD, they are actually not going to be releasing anything comparable to any of these i7s. They're actually working to flesh out their line. I am completely forgetting the name of the AMD card, or I'm sorry, the AMD chips, but they're actually working on the lower end. Like their next line of chips that are coming out this year are actually cheaper than their previous ones that they just released last year. And they have new ones coming out in 2017. They're going to be faster than Intel, but this year they're not even going to try to compete on the top end. They're trying to be more cost competitive on the medium to low end.
And that's where the mass is. I mean, that's where they're going to make their money, because there's only so many of these top of the line 10 core chips that you're going to be able to sell every year. But everyone's buying the low end computers and tablets and mobile devices. I mean, that's really where the money is. That's where the mass production goes.
I think so too.
All right, so now you also point out a couple of additional stories, and again, I don't hate to rush you through it, but again, we'll only have about a shorter time here. One of the stories that you talked about is Google Play will suggest neglected apps for you to uninstall.
Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned Google Play because we just had this news yesterday. Guess where you're going to be able to hear Computer America now?
Oh, where?
Google Play Music.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good. It really is.
Yeah. So.
Well, there was only 250 million, 300 million Android devices, so we're like, I guess we can dip our toe in and see what happens.
I really haven't done podcasts through Google Play Music. I might have to try that. I have a podcast app that I run on my phone, and it works great. Automatically downloads them and.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, for sure. Google Play actually they announced it a couple months ago, and I was waiting for confirmation, and there's a little hiccup on our end, but they are going to start pushing podcasts. Like they're kind of filling up their library now, and then they're going to start making a bigger deal about it. But right now, it's kind of like a little offshoot of the music store.
Yep, they got to build it up first. That's great. They should have done that a long time ago. I'm kind of surprised they haven't. I mean, that's such a huge part. Even if you look at iTunes, I mean, they've got such a huge library just dedicated for podcasts. I'm really surprised that Android just relied on third-party programs for so long to handle that.
Right, and definitely better late than never. So let's see, do I have the store here? So
unless you're a developer for an Android app, then maybe you'd feel differently.
Oh yeah, and this whole Google Play will suggest neglected apps for you to install. Have you received? And actually, I'm not going to ask this question because we're about 30 minutes away from a break, and then we're going to run you over. So when we come
back, let's talk a little bit about that. Okay. All right, you're listening to the Computer America Show. Mike Cermak, owner-operator of TechGuide.org, Computer America correspondent, is here with us for another 15 minutes, and he has to cut out. And we won't uninstall him, we promise.
I appreciate that.
He says full to review from what he was
firmware.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
Sometimes disaster strikes. Data can be lost due to many different reasons. Accidental reformatting, power spikes, virus attacks. Zero Assumption Recovery provides a suite of highly effective and thorough data recovery software for Windows operating systems. ZA is suitable for home users and small businesses who need a powerful data recovery solution for Windows and Linux file systems.
Go to z-a-recovery.com.
Sometimes disaster strikes. Data can be lost due to many different reasons. Accidental reformatting, power spikes, virus attacks. Zero Assumption Recovery provides a suite of highly effective and thorough data recovery software for Windows operating systems. ZA is suitable for home users and small businesses who need a powerful data recovery solution for Windows and Linux file systems.
Go to z-a-recovery.com.
Hi, this is Craig Crossman, host of the Computer America Show. You have important meetings to schedule. Your company's getting ready for its IPO, and you're in charge of the PTA fundraiser this month. So how do you coordinate everyone to be available at the same time? Are you still using emails, phone calls, even text messages to schedule meetings with a group of people? How's that working out for you? Not so great, huh? It's a fact that every day, millions of people suffer from scheduling headaches. Well, with Doodle, scheduling meetings with a group of people is quick and easy. With Doodle, you can easily propose available times to each member. Each one checks off the times that they're available, and then you simply pick the time that works best for the group, all in an easy-to-read display that integrates with your existing calendar. Nothing could be more simple. Give Doodle a try for free, and like millions of Doodle users, you'll truly see how easy it is to find the perfect date and time for all your meetings. That's www.doodle.com.
Crowdfunding? Yeah, that's 10,000 companies all hoping for a 1% share of market. Hi, I'm Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America. This time, the Honeywell Evaporative Cooler. The one thing that's not so hot is when you've got a whole big lot of heat taking the fun out of the sun. But we got in 15 degrees of cooling that can keep working as long as you have a power cord and a garden hose. The Honeywell CO70 Evaporative Cooler uses dual blowers to cover hundreds of square feet. You can fill its 18.5-gallon tank as needed or leave a hose continuously connected. Add ice to its tray to cool even faster. The water mist in the air helps you feel cooler without the expense of air conditioning. Bottom line, we won't say that it makes summer no sweat, but we will say that a Honeywell CO70 Evaporative Cooler can provide a sweet retreat from the heat. Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America.
And thank you, Marty Winston, for that News Tips Bulletin Review. Yeah, and so we are here with Mike Cermak. He's joining us for the first hour. As we are going over these news stories, just finished up our talking about the i7 processors because, you know, that's going to be big news. That's what a lot of the gaming rigs and a lot of the computers that are, you know, going to be advertised over the coming holiday season they're gonna be like, oh, the latest Intel i7 processor inside. So it's good to know just what you're actually getting when you say, oh yeah, I just bought this laptop. It cost $3,500. It was either that or a car. Because you have a new processor chip in it. Crazy expensive. But so we have moved on to the story from Engadget, and obviously Craig and myself, we both use Apple products. So I mean, Apple is a little bit more strict, but I don't think even Apple does this, where if there is, well, actually I take it back. I've read another story that this was kind of a shaming tactic more than an actual kind of thing, where like if a company puts out an app and then they don't keep it updated, for security or updated for any other reason, and they just kind of let it sit there for 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 9 weeks, whatever the amount of time is, they kind of shame the developer, saying that this app hasn't received support in X amount of weeks. Please consider removing it for security's sake or something, right?
Yep.
So.
Yep. Well, and that's not exactly what this is. This is more of a convenience to the user, that if it sees that you're starting to fill up on space on your device, that it'll say, well, these are probably the ones you want to get rid of. And it's looking at things like when you last used that app and how big that app is, how much space it's taking up, and it'll try and rank their suggestions based on those two variables. And it's a little controversial because you don't want to have your app in that list of maybe you should uninstall one of these. But it's not a bad idea. The thing that's interesting about it is they point out in here, is that it's kind of coming at a time where manufacturers are not really giving you an option to have an SD card anymore. It used to be with most smartphones you could put more storage into it, just slide a new 4 gig, 8 gig, 16 gig SD card in there, and you're good to go for as much space as you want to use. But a lot of phones these days don't have that option. Apple's never really did, but in the Android world, most of them did. But now fewer and fewer do, and there's a lot of reasons behind that. Some of it is that marketing. That it's a lot easier for them to sell you a phone with more memory that costs them $10 more to make, if that. That's very generous, and sell it to you for $100 more. And so there's a lot of reasons behind it. But as apps are getting bigger and bigger, it's actually becoming a problem.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that that memory isn't they're not letting you include the expandable memory, because we've done that Samsung with the the micro SD that's 256 gigabytes. Crazy impressive what they're doing with micro SD cards, but phones really aren't taking advantage of the new technology. But hey, so this is actually something different than I previously thought it was. You haven't received any of these? Like, it's oh, we see here that you never use you never use, let's say, Snapchat. So we recommend you take that off?
No, I haven't. Only a couple of people have seen so far, and we're waiting for an official comment from Google about it. I think it's probably one of the things they're just kind of testing the water on before it's an official feature. But if it is set up, and we don't know all the details yet, but if it is set up in such a way that it only comes up and tells the user maybe you ought to uninstall some of these apps if the user is running out of space, I certainly don't see any harm in that. And also, like what you were talking about before, if it would come up, if there's a known security vulnerability and it hasn't been patched in a certain period of time, that's a perfectly good time to block that app or suggest the user uninstall it as well. I don't think this does that, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's something like that already out there.
Yeah,
that we're just not aware of.
Google was experimenting with that, but that was more of a shaming tactic for developers to, continue support after they release an app.
Well, and they need to do that because that's, that can be critically important. Otherwise, if it doesn't get updated, I think it's much more than just shaming. I think that that's a legitimate concern. If it's different if the app just hasn't been updated for X number of weeks, but if it's been a long period of time or there's a known vulnerability, then heck yeah, notify me. I'd want to know.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, and that could possibly be coming. I definitely
and if
like
that has
the idea.
The side effect, if that has the side effect, sorry to interrupt you, but if that has the side effect of shaming the developer and making them actually updated, whereas they weren't doing it before, then all the better, I think. I don't feel too bad for the developers in that case.
It feels similar to what Facebook started doing, where if you have like a business Facebook page and you don't answer messages quick enough, like you're like, oh, it takes 24 hours for them to And like they're so like I think that's unrealistic. It's like, oh, it takes 24 plus hours for this person to get back to their messages. And it's like, well, here's some tips to how to get it to under 3 seconds. And it's like, why Facebook? Why are you trying to make it that quick?
Right, and what can the quality of the response be if it's that quick,
Right.
24, and if it's that way 24/7? Like the business owner or employees are always there waiting to respond to your messages. Like especially for smaller, like the smaller companies we work with, you know, they don't have employees in a call center 24/7. So if you send them a message on Facebook at 1 o'clock in the morning, you're not getting a reply until 9 o'clock the next morning, and
Exactly.
then that lowers their stats. They're responding to messages slowly. It's like, well,
Luckily, that hasn't ever come up before. You know, it's like, oh, yeah, we're calling you out on like whatever. So yeah, I will say I do like this idea because you know the fact that they take space into account because Apple is really guilty of this. iMessages, like if you send pictures, they'll store it in 2 places. Like let's say you send a picture that you have and it's in your photos, you send it in a text message, and all of a sudden it's stored twice on your phone. And like iMessages at some point will take up 3, 4, 5, 6 gigs of memory if you don't clear your your chat messages.
Yep, that makes
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, well, and so maybe they need to suggest their own apps on it. And that's the other thing I was thinking about with this, with the Google, Play potentially coming up and suggesting that you remove particular applications, is that what about all those apps you can't remove? Like you've got all these core apps, many of which most people never use, that you can't delete. Same thing on Apple, but especially if you happen to buy the device from the cell phone company. If you get heaven forbid, if you get a Verizon phone, you've got all of their apps on there that you can't remove either, and a lot of those take up a lot of space and you will never use.
Yeah, it was rumored that Apple was going to, in their next version of their iOS, actually remove that restriction and allow people to remove any app that's on the iPhone. Hasn't happened yet, but like if you don't have an Apple Watch, you can remove the Apple Watch app. That type.
Right. That seems logical. Or like the news. What are the other ones on Apple? Where's my? I don't have my phone.
It's like Apple Calendar, Apple News Feed, Apple.
Right.
Weather, all the ones that if you don't need them, they're going to allow you to delete them.
And
I was just talking to someone yesterday. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I was gonna say real quick that like my brother took it really personally when he got his first iPhone. He's like, I just paid how many hundreds of dollars for this phone, and Apple is telling me I can't remove something. Like he took it personally.
Well, and is there any actual technical, logical reason why you can't? Like it is there are core programs that that would actually interfere with other programs to have it removed is one thing. But when it's just a freaking advertisement, like it's like when computers used to come with AOL, pre-installed on it, or MSN. Anyone remember MSN? And and some of those were actually difficult to uninstall. Like they would install them in such a way that there wasn't just an easy uninstall button.
Well,
why would you do that?
There's someone here that you have to have, for example, the phone app. Okay,
right,
you need
sure.
to have that. The messages app. Okay, you probably really need to have that too, even if you never send it. The camera app. These are I would say. The settings app. I mean, because if you can't change the settings of the phone, you're out of luck. I mean, that's part of the core operation of the phone. So there are some. The clock, probably. There are a few on here that you really should have, but there are ones that
it's not like we're recommending. Okay, folks, if your Windows is running slow, go into your folder and find the sys32 file and get rid of that. It's so bloated.
But the way I handle it, Mike, is that I actually make a folder, and I put all the apps that Apple gave me that I can, and put it.
That's what most people do. That's where the stock app. I'm looking at a screenshot now. The Tips app, the podcast app. A lot of people don't use that, although they should to listen to Computer America.
Yes.
The iBooks app. There's the Game Center app. There's all these pre-installed apps you can't get rid of. That and Apple Maps. A lot of people don't care for Apple Maps and use Google Maps anyway.
I have them both. I make a folder for my maps. I put Google Maps and Apple Maps in the folder.
Sure, but you can't get rid of Apple Maps. You have to have it.
That's true.
And why should that be the case? Why do you have to have Apple Maps?
Yeah. So
it's like back when you used to have Internet Explorer. It's like, why can't I choose if I don't want to have it? There was a whole lawsuit over that.
Yeah, well, as I said, I think the next version they're going to allow you to delete most of the apps that you don't want, that you don't need.
That's good. That makes a lot of sense. I'm glad to hear that.
And if you ever want to, I'm sure you can reinstall them when you realize, oh no, I really need to have that app and put it back on. So
Yep.
I'm sure you.
And I wonder how much space some of those things take. I mean, I don't think it's insignificant.
Well, yeah, of course, if you have the smallest iPhone was 16 gigs, right? And I've always had a 16 gig, but I finally it turned out I couldn't get a 16 gig, so now I have 128 gig.
That's a big difference.
And I look at it and I go, I will never fill this thing up if I try. It doesn't even bother me.
I remember when I had my first hard drive in a computer, and it was they wanted to know, do you want a 20 meg or a 40 meg? And I was like, 40 meg? Who could ever use 40 meg? Like, that's just ridiculous. Like,
well, they back then didn't use them. They were pretty thin. They were mostly text apps. Your word processor.
I dream of a day where compression is no longer needed. Everything is delivered in full glory.
Yeah.
Well, at least for transmission compression. Well, who knows? If we all have, fiber, maybe not.
Yeah, you wouldn't even need that. Yeah, a little fiber never hurted anybody. But that's another story. So I don't know. We have time to get to this other one here, which was the Faraday Future.
I've got to head off, so I can't say too much about it. But there's not much to say about Faraday Future anymore. I mean, anyway, I don't have a lot of hope for a future for Faraday Future. They're just kind of this. A lot of people think that they're like a vaporware company. That they have all these promises and never deliver anything. And so they're in the news again now because apparently they just got approval from the city council to acquire another 157 acres of land to build a second factory. Now we have to keep in mind they haven't built a car yet, but they have now permission to build a second factory.
But Tesla's so far ahead of them right now.
It's well, and that's very, very true. But I'm perfectly fine with other companies, building electric vehicles, and there's no reason why there can't be other Teslas.
Sure.
But this company, I don't know. I just get a weird vibe from them. All of their And then they went to CES and showed off this F1 car. Like, who cares about it? It's just, I don't know. It's not. I mean, look at that thing. It's got onboard oxygen for the driver, and it's like
it looks like a Formula car.
I don't know.
It looks like
and that's what it's meant to be. It's meant to be a Formula type car. It's all electric. That's cool, but it was really a disappointment because people expected to hear about a consumer car. They expected to hear about, what are you actually going to build that's going to make money? Because I don't know how many Formula cars you can sell. Maybe 0, maybe 1. But it's like, I don't know. I've really beginning to lose hope for them, and which is a shame because I'd really like to see other manufacturers out there. It's never a good thing when there's only, as much as I love Tesla, it's never a good thing when there's no competition.
Yeah, but the big car manufacturers are all going electric. Ford's got their electric,
Finally, they're starting to, and I don't know how seriously some of them are taking it though, but some of them are looking. I mean, Nissan has always been serious about it. I think it's just a matter of time before we hear about their next generation, Leaf or something based on that type battery that's going to have a longer range and a similar price point as the Tesla Model 3 will. I think that's just a matter of time, and that's awesome. Nissan really, led electric cars before Tesla was around. I mean, they got into this early, and props to them. But these other manufacturers are just really slow to come to it, and when they do it, it just seems half-hearted. I don't know.
And let us not forget the Prius, of course.
Oh yeah, sure. Yep. The problem with Toyota, and I talked to someone at a Toyota executive here a couple years ago about this when they were demoing the fuel cell vehicle, is that they really were hardcore for fuel cell. And I love Toyota. I had a Prius. I loved it, but the fuel cells just don't make any sense for reasons we can't get into today because I'm going to be late to pick up my son. But it's just, I don't know. I don't know why they were so against going electric. And I think they're finally starting to see the error of their ways. But we shall see.
That
would be an interesting conversation for another day. We can get into fuel cells someday.
All right. Well, listen, Mike. Again, I know you have to run, and we don't. It's unfortunate that you have to leave so soon. But
do that whole parenting thing.
Nothing touches me more than a fake audience following my departure. Just really hits home, you know.
I know. It just yes, exactly. Just heart. Again, techguy.org is the website. Check it out, Mike Cermak's website, and we'll see. We did not have a trivia contest today. Again, but we will have.
Really sad.
Yeah.
They are really sad. I feel so bad. I don't know how I'm going to be able to sleep at night.
Exactly, but we will see you next in July on the first Wednesday, and until
I'll be here.
have a good month, and we'll catch you then. Okay, Mike.
Take care. Have a good show.
Take care. All right, bye-bye. Again, Mike Cermak, owner-operator of TechGuy.org. And again, we have a link to the TechGuy.org website at ComputerAmerica.com. So, Ben, what's happening?
Oh, what's happening indeed. I think that was really good first most of an hour with Mike Cermak. Definitely covered a lot. I think he's right with the Faraday future. Not much to talk about there. Anything going on here? And by the way, for any of you folks out there, tech support guy or techguy.org, they have a whole forum set up there. If you have any computer problems, computer needs, troubleshooting, whatnot. I actually think I was able to answer a question here on the air. But if you're watching the video portion, I tried to answer this gentleman's question. But obviously it's a back and forth, so we'll have to see if that worked. Please go there for any of your trouble needs. Very, very friendly, and usually, the community is very, very prompt. Anything else? No. E3 behind the scenes here at Computer America. It's we're getting everything settled out.
Yeah.
We are working with a couple different of our friends over at PopZara to get some on-location reporting done out at E3.
Speaking of which, PopZara. Nathan Evans, who was not on with us last month, is going to be on with us this Friday. So he'll be joining us for both hours, talking about E3. Maybe, and of course, I'm sure we're sort of all over the road. We'll talk with him about all the different things with him, including movies. Hey, I got to see two of them now. I saw both the X-Men movie and the Captain America movie, so we'll discuss that. And we'll talk about E3 and probably the Taipei convention. We'll mention that.
Computex.
For Computex. And then, as you mentioned, we are going to set up some sort of alliance with PopZara, so when they are out at E3, we'll get coverage out at the E3 event as well. So that's all coming up on the program. And, of course, on Friday, we'll have our social media winner of the week, all the normal things that you've come to expect here at Computer America. That'll all be happening. So that said, do you want to start doing our news segment now?
Sure. I think we have plenty of stories, and we're still getting them as we speak. Mike is definitely a fun guy to talk to, so I got a little distracted. Yeah. But I think we're good to go.
All right, so let's do some computer news. Today's computer and technology news is brought to you by Slimware Utilities, the official optimization software of Computer America. You can visit them at slimwareutilities.com to clean, speed up, and optimize your Windows system. Check them out. Go to slimwareutilities.com and download them today. You'll be very happy, and you'll thank us for it. slimwareutilities.com. You want me to do the first story?
No, I can actually handle it. You don't have this one, but folks out there, if you would be so kind as follow along on the video portion. If not, just sit back and relax and listen as we talk about this one from Engadget. And this is by Mr. Matt Smith. Hey.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, Matt Smith, for those who don't know, we just had him on the show a couple days ago. He is actually out there at Computex. And he is reporting on, this is now, in his opinion, the most excessive PC modification out there is now a cotton candy machine. Right. So, Asia's biggest tech show delivers on the PC case mods. If they're not labors of love, courtesy of international case modelers, then it's a company producing the case mods itself. MSI possibly went too far, commissioning this blood sugar baiting monstrosity. PC modder Mike Peterenis, there we go, was responsible for the MSI cotton candy. Made to coincide with the company's 30th anniversary, pairing the State Fair diabetes trap with the PC developer's own GFX camouflage motherboard and white liquid cooling system. And someone was making cotton candy for everyone, which always helps to draw a crowd. So, and he even has a nice little photo gallery here, of some others, including a computer case that was built on top of a Captain America shield.
It was vibranium based, yes. Tribute to yes, exactly.
So, and obviously, like you said, there are lots and lots of different case mods by, many different companies. Obviously, if you're in the gaming, computer gaming sector, you want to stand out, but standing out among all these awesome looking computers can actually be pretty hard. So MSI's solution to that was, of course, hey, build a cotton candy machine on top of your computer.
Wow.
Obviously not for sale, but funny nonetheless.
Again, looks like he's having fun out there. I would like to have seen that cotton candy machine.
Oh, it's right there. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, Ben and I are going to continue doing computer technology news brought to you by Slimmer Utilities. And this story, my first story here, is from Popular Science and says, see the difference 1 year makes in artificial intelligence research. And this is I found this to be really fascinating. The article by Dave Gershkorn, an improved way of learning about neural networks. And they do a side-by-side comparison of Google generated images from 2015 and the images generated in 2016. And it is quite a difference. Last June, Google wrote that it was teaching its artificial intelligence algorithms to generate images of objects, or quote-unquote dream. The AI tried to generate pictures of things it had seen before, like dumbbells, but it ran into a few problems. It was able to successfully make objects shaped like dumbbells, but each had disembodied arms sticking out of them from the handles, because arms and dumbbells were closely associated.
Probably because it scanned so many pictures, and when you think dumbbell, someone holding a dumbbell, curling a dumbbell, that Google's computer just thought, oh, that's the way dumbbells are shaped. They have a hand wrapped around them.
Yeah, exactly. So, but over the course of a year, this process has become incredibly refined, meaning these algorithms are learning much more complete ideas about the world. So new research now shows that even when trained on a standardized set of images, artificial intelligence can generate increasingly realistic images of objects that it's seen before. And they show a cheeseburger. It looks like a cheeseburger. Swimming trunks. Well, it looks like a pair of swimming trunks. A running shoe, or even a water jug. Very, very much more close to the actual object than now. Basically, basically looking at generated images from a model is important because it gives researchers better ideas about how their models process data. And it's a way to take a look under the hood of algorithms that usually act independent of human intervention as they work. By seeing what computation each neuron in the network does, they can tweak the structure to be faster or more accurate. Anyone who's used Google Images will know how much more accurate it is. With real images, it's unclear which of their features a neuron has learned, which the team said. For example, if a neuron is activated by a picture of a lawnmower on a grass, it's unclear if it cares about the grass, but if an image contains grass, we can be more confident the neuron has learned to pay attention to that context. They're researching the research, and thus this gives a valuable tool to continue to doing so. And they give you some other examples of how the images that the AI was able to produce. Much more accurate. Very impressive, actually.
For those of you out there who are like, well, why does it matter if these algorithms can reproduce pictures? And it's because if they can get something similar in any part of a picture, they can, instead of having to rely on tags of a picture or someone physically typing out, oh, in this picture we have a man, a cheeseburger, wearing shoes, doing this and that and that. If they can better identify each object within a picture with artificial intelligence, then every time a picture is uploaded or taken by Google's crawlers, then you can better search these images. So imagine a day when you say, okay, picture, I want it's a Google Images, I want a picture of fruits, and I want it at night, and I want it falling, and I want it on a deck, and put in all these weird little things that, like, obviously no one is ever going to label their picture as such, but if Google's algorithm knows each one of those words and is able to find pictures that involves each one of those, then it doesn't matter what pictures are labeled as. It's just easier to sort through the data.
And if anyone's ever used Google Images to find things, it's becoming surprisingly more accurate. I use it all the time, and I found the images that are produced from a search are a lot more accurate to what I'm looking for. It's getting to be spooky, like the traditional Google searches. Hey, we're up at the top of the hour. We're going to take a momentary break. We'll continue to do our computer and technology news, brought to you by Slimmer Utilities. We've got a lot of interesting stories coming up. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Computer America Show. Please stay with us. Don't go anywhere.
Broadcasting live, it's the only national radio talk show on computers to air every weeknight. Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. The first hour's behind us, but there's still more of tech news, tech talk, and your phone calls. We're being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. You got computer problems? Bring them on. You're listening to Computer America. Computers run the world, and we run computers. Call us or send us an email to live@computeramerica.com.
Hello and welcome into Hour 2 of the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. This is the Computer America Show, and I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And we continue doing computer technology news. We just had we had Mike Cermak on in the first hour. He had to leave a little earlier, but it was fun. Having him here. He's always a lot of fun. Have a lot of fun having him on the show. And of course, you can, if you missed it, you can listen to him again. We archive all of our shows at ComputerAmerica.com. Just click on the archive selection on the menu bar there on any page at ComputerAmerica.com. And we are continuing to do computer and technology news. I just finished up the story with Google Artificial Intelligence becoming more savvy, smarter. So when you do searches for objects or images, your search is going to bear fruit. It's going to be more accurate. And I've seen this reflected again. Anyone who's done a Google search or through Google Images. What's interesting is that you can actually search from a picture in Google's Images, and I've actually
that is a new feature where you kind of take a picture and you kind of drop it into the Google search bar, and it will find other images that look very, very similar, or even if it's a picture that's been posted elsewhere, we'll find that exact picture in other places. I think that's one of the craziest things that Google has kind of introduced on the hush hush.
Yeah, it's very accurate, and it can solve a lot of frustrations because in that particular case, I was looking for a piece of furniture that was very stylized, and I really couldn't put it into words. I mean, I sat down and thought, how the heck am I going to put this description of this piece of furniture into the Google search bar? I really couldn't. And then it hit me. I said, oh, wait a minute. I'm just going to take a picture of it. And then use the capture image from Google and just put the image in there and let it search on the image. And lo and behold, it found it. It was amazing. And I could not have put in words that would afforded here more than ever. A picture's worth 1,000 words. Really, this is a perfect example of that. Using the picture rather than trying to put in a description yielded a very accurate results. Again, using the Google image search. So again, this is all kinds of ties into their artificial intelligence and how it's continuing to improve. to make life easier on Google.
Yeah, Google is very invested in artificial intelligence, as we know from Google's DeepMind, I think it was called, that beat the Go player. And and while that's an interesting way to kind of show off the capabilities of this machine, it's not going to Google is not looking to overshadow the world of Go. It's looking to sort through the literal mountain of data that no team of humans can possibly ever can sift through, let alone the continuation of that data just piling and piling and piling. So they know that the future is artificial intelligence to help them, kind of categorize and sort and redefine what is exactly, Google is searching.
And they're doing it
because you can't trust everything to just keywords and tags.
No, you can't. And it's the refinement of that process which is yielding better results. It doesn't have to sift through as much data. It's using its intelligence to dismiss things that really don't come into play, yet using the power of the computational abilities to sift through those mountains of data even more quickly and more accurately. Bottom line is that it's just getting more accurate. You're getting more accurate results over time, and then they're continuing to refine that process.
Not much to say about that, but that is just one story that we have covered so far during our computer and technology news.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I think for our next one, and Greg, I'm almost out on my end, so
you want
stay tight.
No.
Actually, I'm going to send them over right now, and I am going to do this one. This one is from motherboardadvice.com, and there were a couple stories involving this one, but I chose this one because it seemed the most relevant to us. But fun fact: the FAA has officially released a list of every single person that they had tickets out to, that they fined, that they've punished for flying drones. So anything drone related that the FAA has been involved in, they just released a list of everyone and their quote unquote crime. And this one seemed the most interesting to me. The others were like, they've never fined anyone in the commercial space for flying a drone. So, obviously the FAA is not really interested in inhibiting progress in that manner. And also the FAA, again, has that very concise list. But this story, kind of tickled me because a gentleman who had an airplane pilot's license has had it revoked by the FAA after he was flying his drone.
Okay.
So, the things you do in one life can affect another. So, on the 4th of July last year, pilot David Quinones flew a camera drone on Coney Island, Brooklyn, while the famous Nathan's hot dog eating contest was going on. His drone caught the attention of the police, which tossed him in jail for 5 hours. 3 months later, he became the first and so far only person to have his manned aircraft license suspended by the FAA for flying a drone. They have a statement from Mr. Quinones saying that I was right there on the beach over private property. At the same time, they had their hot dog thing going on a block or two away. He says that I did not fly over their hot dog thing or anywhere near it, but because it was the 4th of July and a whole hierarchy of the NYPD was there, they overreacted and over-responded. They put me in handcuffs, took me away, and took my drone. So he was charged, and New York eventually threw out a ticket that gave him that they gave him for the incident. So in October 2015, so a couple months after, they got a letter from the FAA informing him that the agency was suspending his license to fly manned aircraft commercially for 3 months because of the incident, which is notable because the punishment has never happened before or since.
Wow.
Fun fact. So, yeah, and I guess he makes his living off of his drone because, again, he flies them commercially and maybe he does photography or something like that. But they have a quote here saying that a suspension can have significant impacts on someone's livelihood, continuing repercussions. It's on your record forever. So the FAA's legal actions against the drone operator has been all over the map, according to documents obtained by Motherboard using the Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA. Hobbyists have been fined thousands of dollars for flying drones over sporting events or crashing them into public buildings, while some commercial pilots have been fined for quote-unquote careless or reckless flying, but not for the mere act of flying their drones commercially without FAA authorization. So it seems like they have fined them commercially. It's just they have to be doing something stupid. They have to be reckless in their drone flying capabilities, and then they get fined. So
all right.
The article kind of goes on a little bit longer because obviously they have this this document that was obtained through FOIA. But suffice to say that the FAA, I'll be honest, they're obviously keeping very meticulous records on how they interact with the public and their drones, and they seem pretty hands off. If they've only ever gotten one guy out of all these, out of all the hobbyists that fly drones, either the hobbyists are very, very good at what they do, or the FAA really isn't that interested unless you do something stupid with your drone. Is what it seems like. Don't fly it over private property. Make sure you're in a public place. Don't hit anyone with it. Don't hit any buildings with it. And don't film things you aren't supposed to. And it seems like, honestly, the FAA could care less.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. So, anything else going to come of that at this particular? I mean, he got his license, but
the FAA is, continuing monitoring the whole situation. That particular guy, he was banned for 3 months, so he's had his license back for 5 months plus by now.
Right. Well, and hopefully hasn't done anything reckless. But I guess we'll find out
for sure. Well, we probably won't because again, fool me once, shame on you.
Yeah,
fool me twice, shame on me.
I have a question for you. How much do you value your privacy? I know you right.
I value it pretty highly. Admittedly, I use the internet every day of my life, so obviously not that much. But if I have the choice, I'd choose privacy over transparency.
So let me ask you, how worried are you that your text messages and your calls that you make on your smartphone are under observation?
Someone is wading through a lot of pictures that they probably don't want to be wading through.
Well, if you're concerned about this, do we have a phone for you? It's an Android phone. There's only one. Let's call. Let me tell you that it's called the Solarin. That's the name of it. And
it's a nice name.
It's from an Israeli startup company called Siren Labs, and it's their first smartphone. It's nice looking. It's a titanium-clad Android phone that lets you quickly toggle between a regular Android device and a secure lockdown communications tool. Okay.
When you say it looks nice, it honestly looks better than more fashionable than any other phone on the market.
It does, but it better be because this phone that we're talking about sells for $14,000. $14,000 for this phone.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
Well, do you have $14,000? I think if you had $14,000, you'd be buying one of those dual 10-core Intel processor gaming.
I would probably spend the majority of it on a computer, yes.
Exactly. Now, obviously, at this price, it's intended mainly for the titans of industry and the jet set, people with secrets worth stealing. In many ways, it's the first phone that's been specifically designed to keep the personal data of the 1% safe from everyone else. Okay. Now, basically, the system works like this. By default, it's a beefy, ultra masculine Android smartphone with a skin that looks like it was designed by the prop department of a spy movie. It looks really slick. But once you flick the tiny toggle on the back of the device, it'll switch into a secure mode and a green and white 8-bit skin. And in this mode, all but the most essential sensors are disabled. And both calls and text messages are encrypted only to be read by trusted devices carrying the Solarin Friend app. And in this environment, your data is protected by a 256-bit AES encryption backed up by security firms Zypermen and Coolspan. There's even a secure concierge service that monitors the state of your phone and warns you of incoming attacks. For $14,000 a phone, I would hope so. Now, when you're not in this mode, well, it's just your average Android smartphone with a high-end, Snapdragon 810 chip and a healthy 4 gigs of memory. You also get 120 gigabytes of internal storage. There's no memory card slot, and a 23.8 megapixel Sony-made camera and a quad LED flash. And it has a nice heft, has a nice feel. If you're watching our live video stream, Ben is actually showing some pictures of it. Okay, it's unobtrusive in styling. It's coated in a black technical leather. Okay, which is leather that's made to look like carbon fiber. Okay. The display boasts fantastic viewing angles and its beautifully rich colors. It's a QHD IPS LCD screen. And but basically, the bottom line is, and we can go on and on about this phone, but basically, if you're really, if you think the NSA is targeting you, you really need.
I'm just saying, there are a couple politicians now, if you've been watching the news, that would love to get their hands on a phone like this because privacy definitely a concern for certain folks. I mean, a lot of ordinary people, a lot of the we people, we have to kind of hide ourselves in the crowd, kind of stay with the school, and hopefully no one really cares that we're sending our grandmother a picture of our dog, and the FBI doesn't really care about that. So for most people, you hide in plain sight. But for politicians, for business executives, for people who do, for people whose communications, I don't want to say actually matter, but I'm going to say actually matter, they would, $14,000 is nothing if they can, that's why BlackBerry stayed in the market for so long, was because BlackBerry was seen as the most secure platform, and therefore they could stay in the market longer than, their phones were relevant, because people trusted that Research in Motion and BlackBerry would keep their, stuff safe.
Mm-hmm. And again, you don't have to use it in the encrypted mode. You can use it just like a regular Android phone if you want to, and just have a nice looking phone. But again, if you're worried about hackers, people trying to get into your phone, because chances are,
well, odds are that we say if you are worried, then we can offer them other tips like hey, be sure to keep your passwords safe, secure, vary them often, and change them on a 6-month period. Or don't have the same password for everything, or have a secure username, let alone a secure password. Yada yada yada. I feel like none of our advice should be go out and buy a $14,000 phone.
No,
that's probably not going to keep you as safe as common sense practices. Like if someone's coming to get you, then they're going to find a way to get into your stuff. Mm-hmm. But just in general, for the everyman, be safe, but don't bother buying $14,000 worth of phone.
All right, there it is. Okay, but again, the $14,000, the Sirin Labs Solarin. If you're really into security, that might be a phone you might be interested in.
Right. Well, I doubt anyone is actually interested in that. That's such a niche product. Let us talk about, okay, there's a phone company out there. I'm sure some of you have heard about it if you've listened to the show before, but they are finally about to make their debut in America. And this is big news because technically, they are the largest phone manufacturer in the world. And, it's not Apple, it's not Android, or it might be an Android phone, but the largest phone manufacturer in the world is actually a company called Xiaomi, or Xiaomi. It's obviously a Chinese company. And I guess they finally hit the magic number, and they are looking to come into the U.S. So, and of course, the article from BGR kind of starts off saying that Xiaomi wasn't the first smartphone company to unashamedly copy Apple, but it likely did the most thorough job of it following the company's launch back in 2010. At one point, the Chinese smartphone startup even had a man in a black mock turtleneck and jeans unveil a new smartphone on stage at a press conference, much like Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
So the tech media pointed and laughed, but Xiaomi laughed all the way to the bank. The company's valuation climbed as high as $46 billion in late 2015, and it has enjoyed faster growth than any other smartphone maker in recent years. And again, that's $46 billion after 5 years. That's a crazy amount of growth. Apple has been in the computer game since since computers were a thing. This is a 5-year-old company. So, like Samsung before it, Xiaomi dialed down its blatant copying of Apple iPhone once it began to see commercial success, and its phones now barely resemble the iPhone. Now, it looks like the company is preparing to sell its smartphones in the United States for the first time. This is the exciting part. So, Reuters reported on Wednesday morning that Xiaomi has purchased approximately 1,500 patents from Microsoft. Of course, Xiaomi is a new company in the mobile space, and it has precious little patent protection. The only thing that keeps companies like Apple, Samsung, and LG from continuing to sue each other is the fact that each company could bring countless claims against the other because patent portfolios have grown so deep. And, again, another thing we've talked about on the show, patents are getting ridiculous. The fact that someone can, patent the square shape of a phone as well as, patent a glass touch interface, obviously these patents have gotten a little bit out of hand. But thanks to a new deal with Microsoft, Xiaomi has purchased some protection under this crucial area, and it isn't being shy about its intentions to expand either. The company's senior vice president also told Reuters that the Microsoft deal and the 3,700 additional patents filed in China in 2015 were an important step forwards to support our expansion internationally. So, again, Xiaomi, very, very well established in China, but it could be good news for phone users here in America because, hey, it's another player on the market. And as capitalism, is kind of our thing, competition is good. And Xiaomi definitely brings high quality phones at a much lower price. Like that is kind of what made them successful in the Asian markets. So
yeah.
Xiaomi, if again, we have a picture up there if you want to see one. They are again like the biggest phone manufacturer in China, which kind of makes them the biggest phone manufacturer in the world, and they're finally bringing their products to the U.S.
Cool.
And I think it's interesting to hear that this kind of happened off the back of Microsoft getting out of the mobile phone market, as we've talked about before. Like we only heard rumors that Microsoft was interested in getting out of the mobile phone market, but they are definitely selling off a lot of their patents. They sold off their, I forget which phone company. Microsoft owned a phone company that I'm completely drawing a blank on, and they sold it to a company in Sweden. I don't know if you remember that story, Craig.
I do, but I'm not recalling the name of it.
Yeah, it was a very well-known phone brand.
Nokia?
Nokia, that's it.
Okay.
It was Nokia. They sold it to a startup in Sweden, and it looks like they sold their patent portfolio to Xiaomi. So all indications show that Windows is really edging away from the mobile space, from the mobile phone market, and enter new players everywhere.
All right. Well, Oh my goodness.
Greg, I feel like you need some Energy Go Cubes or coffee or something.
I'm looking at the phone and it looks nice. I don't see any rush. I mean, is it Android? Is it going to be an Android phone base? Is it Android based?
It all depends on what they want to sell here in America. I'm assuming it's going to be Android. Xiaomi traditionally, I think, has had their own variant of the Android operating system.
Okay.
But obviously, it's not going to be an iOS. So
no, I don't.
Probably Android.
Probably Android. Okay. Well, I don't see anything. I mean, obviously they want to distance themselves from Apple because they started out copying Apple. But now I figured they're legitimate and they made all this money. They don't want to have to deal with any lawsuits, so they're trying to get away from anything that even vaguely resembles anything on the Apple iPhone, which is a smart move, really, on their part. That's about all I can have to say on that. This is a long story, but I think I'm going to at least touch on it here. For all you World of Warcraft players out there, the Warcraft movie is going to be making its debut shortly. And the big question, this is from Engadget and from Joseph Volpe, who wrote the story. He asks one question, and he says, can Warcraft break the curse of the video game movie? What is the curse of the video game movie? It was any movie based on the video game really has had poor success. I'm putting that mildly. Do you think that the Warcraft movie is going to truly make the big box office? Because, I guess there's a lot riding on this. I guess they want to see what's going to happen with this. Because, I mean, all the Mortal Kombat movies, I
like the first Mortal Kombat movie. That was entertaining to me.
The Prince of I saw the Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time.
I wasn't a big fan of that.
Yeah, I saw that in the theater. A lot of them just don't make it. Now, you know what did look interesting? I saw the previews for Assassin's Creed, the movie. That looked good. It looked good. That looked very interesting. I thought that looked good.
Looks like they adapted a lot of traditional sci-fi into Assassin's Creed. Like Assassin's Creed, the game was very, very compelling, like the very first one, and I think it could be easily adapted into a movie. But I feel like they kind of went a little bit too heavy on certain aspects and a little bit too light on others. So, but again, we're going to have to see the actual reviews. But the advertising doesn't really capture what the game is about.
Well, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe you don't want to catch what the game. Maybe you just want to have the general premise and then move off to something.
But that's not what you're not. If you don't pull from your source material accurately, then sure, it may be a public success, and good for that. But then you anger the existing fan base.
Yeah.
And while it may be entertaining to the existing fan base, they say, but that's nothing like the actual game.
By the way, I was looking at all the characters in this movie Warcraft, and I think like 80% of them or even more, their bottom jaw protrudes out, and they have these huge tusks, teeth coming up. Even the woman had the same thing. She has these really the protruding jaw and the tusks coming.
That would be Garona, and she is you're talking about orcs.
Yeah, exactly. They all look that way. You wonder, how do they sit at the table and eat? I don't see how you can chew with teeth like that. And obviously they do, but I'm maybe I'm just overanalyzing it. It just doesn't look.
I've heard reviews from this. I think people do overanalyze it. Like they're a little harsh. Like I actually heard a review of the Warcraft movie because, again, for those of you who don't know, it's actually debuted abroad. Like one of the last markets it comes to is Europe and the U.S. It's already in a lot of countries around the world. And one of the reviews I read was the movie was too heavy on the fantasy, not believable. I don't know why that reviewer went into a movie that is based off a 20-year franchise of fantasy and came out saying there was too much fake stuff. I don't get what people go into movies expecting.
Well, I guess they should expect the storyline behind the game that it was based on, which is completely all fantasy. And yeah, you would think so. But anyway, the movie I think debuts next week? June the 10th. Yeah, June the 10th. It's next week. Which is a week from this coming Friday. And now, are you going to go see this movie?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm going to be curious what your opinion is going to be on it, whether you liked it.
You're not going to go see it?
Yeah, I am going to go see it. I probably will, although you'll know more about it because I'm not a big Warcraft gamer. So
it doesn't mean that you don't know a movie that you liked or not.
Yeah, well, I probably will plan to go see it.
Like honestly, you should definitely make a movie that appeals to the fan base, that are like the source material and the fan base, because if you say, okay, I'm gonna make a game, or actually I'm gonna make a cake, but instead of using flour, sugar, and eggs, I'm going to use lawn clippings and a magazine of sports cars and I don't know, goat's blood. Like, if you take everything out of it and you come up with something that, hey, maybe it is really cool, but it's not close to the source material whatsoever, then you're going to make the people who kind of believed in it from the very beginning, you're going to make them mad, and then that's going to cause a lot of vocal bad reviews by the people who are supposed to be the biggest fans of this movie.
Well, from the previews, it looks like it's going to follow the storyline. Anyway, hey, look, we'll get back to this. We'll take a short break, and we'll continue on with more computer and technology news. This is Computer America. Hi, this is Craig Crossman, host of the Computer America Show. You have important meetings to schedule. Your company's getting ready for its IPO, and you're in charge of the PTA fundraiser this month. So how do you coordinate everyone to be available at the same time? Are you still using emails, phone calls, even text messages to schedule meetings with a group of people? How's that working out for you? Not so great, huh? It's a fact that every day, millions of people suffer from scheduling headaches. Well, with Doodle, scheduling meetings with a group of people is quick and easy. With Doodle, you can easily propose available times to each member. Each one checks off the times that they are available, and then you simply pick the time that works best for the group, all in an easy-to-read display that integrates with your existing calendar. Nothing could be more simple. Give Doodle a try for free, and like millions of Doodle users, you'll truly see how easy it is to find the perfect date and time for all your meetings. That's www.doodle.com. Looking for a best friend? Brother Wolf Animal Rescue has your best friend waiting just for you. The mission of Brother Wolf Animal Rescue is to help build a sustainable, no-kill community where no dogs or cats are ever killed for population control, where true euthanasia is reserved only for animals who are irremediably suffering, or for animals who are truly a threat to society and with no hope of rehabilitation. Brother Wolf staff and volunteers go door to door, neighborhood by neighborhood, to educate citizens about local resources available for at-risk pets and to help their families connect with those resources. Brother Wolf's community-based approach to no-kill helps keep family pets healthy, happy, and in their homes and out of the local shelter system in the first place. For more information or to make a tax-deductible donation to this wonderful 501c3 organization, visit their website at www.bwar.org. Help to realize Brother Wolf's vision when no animal is euthanized for lack of a home.
Who's a good boy?
So I asked him, is it still social media if you can't get a date? Hi, I'm Marty Winston with the News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America. This time, a Honeywell portable air conditioner. Does every house have a room that air conditioning seems to never reach? We got a cure for that, a Honeywell 12,000 BTU portable air conditioner that you can wheel from room to room if you like, as long as there's a window to host its exhaust hose bracket. In all but the most humid weather, water gathered during dehumidifying evaporates out that hose tube. If there's too much, a drain at the bottom lets you empty it. A clever sleep mode relaxes, then restores the thermostat by 2 degrees when you use it. There's also an auto-off timer. Bottom line, whether you want to just run the fan or adjust the dehumidifier or use it to beat the heat, The new Honeywell 12,000 BTU portable air conditioner is a really cool way to go. Marty Winston, News Tips Bulletin for Computer America.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show, 33 minutes past the hour, as we continue doing computer and technology news brought to you by Slimware Utilities, where we are just going over news stories of the days, news events of the days. We finished up in the first hour with Mike Cermak, where obviously he had to go early there, so a shorter amount of time, but we did the exact same thing where we're talking about late breaking news and, of course, everything to do with Intel's new i7 processors. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, and we're just finishing up this article. This article really isn't kind of conducive to what we do here, where we talk about news stories, but it's a Q&A with the director, Duncan Jones, who, again, is the son of not Bono, David Bowie. There we go. Duncan Jones is the son of David Bowie, and of course, as everyone knows, David Bowie don't raise no losers. So, yes, this is his first real AAA movie, and there are a lot of actors in the movie that, like, I feel like if you go there and you kind of look up the cast list, you'll say, "Oh, I remember seeing him in X TV show," or "Oh, I remember seeing him as an extra in X movie." Like, they pulled together a lot of B actors and a lot of extras that you've seen in other places, gave them a star role, and gave the whole project to someone who was going to be very, very closely invested in the origin of Warcraft, and said, "Okay, make the best movie you can." Like, this isn't the lead orc being played by Robert Downey Jr. It's it's a cast of actors you've seen other places, and a director who is largely unvetted, but that can kind of work to your advantage, because then you're not distracted. It's like, wait, is that Ian McKellen playing that old warlock? What the really? And
so the no name actors at all in this movie? Well,
not no name. I mean, the lead human, Andrew Lothar, he is the gentleman who plays him was the lead in Vikings, the television series.
All right.
So, like, again, if you go through the cast list, you'll say, "Oh, I've seen all these people before." It's just like they've never been, top billing AAA characters.
Okay. You see some of that. I know in the upcoming Tarzan movie, the guy who actually plays Tarzan really was in a lot of smaller movies, and was in the he played a vampire in the HBO series that has been canceled. What was it? True
Blood.
True Blood, yes, in True Blood, and I've seen around, and of course the adversary. His adversary is played by again, I'm blocking their name, but he was recently in the latest Bond movie. He played the Spectre leader. He's been in a lot of movies. He's been in a lot of. He was in the Quentin Tarantino movie. He was in there too. I can't. He's been in a lot of movies, but again, no. He
a lot of good discussion. If we keep saying every 2 seconds, I can't remember his name. I can't remember his movie.
Yeah, he has started. But I think that's what you're saying here. There are a lot of actors that are identified. You've seen them, but they don't have the big name attached to them.
They don't have the big name. Obviously, not the big price point. The the cost to make this movie, while admittedly was pretty big, but it's very experimental. It's experimental that, while the franchise has been around for 20 years or 25 years, it's, about 20 years. It's a very old franchise, but going into movie, I mean, this is the first time Blizzard Entertainment, Activision Blizzard, has been part of making movies. And if you've ever seen a Blizzard game before, you know that they really go all out in terms of of animation. Like they really, like, all their games have next level animation, and I think that's going to transfer very well to the movie. But again, it's kind of experimental, because, like they said at the very beginning of this, video games and movies, they're usually poorly done. They rely on people going to see it just because it's about that movie, and they never really get close to the source material. I mean, if you want to see how bad things can get, admittedly, it wasn't primarily a video game, but look at Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball the movie, and you can see how bad things can get. I mean, people don't even recognize that Dragon Ball was actually Dragon Ball.
Yeah, Alexander Skarsgård, by the way, was from True Blood, and Christoph Waltz is one of course, Samuel Jackson is in there too. So they do have some visible names, recognizable names in the movies. But I think in the World of Warcraft, again, they're mostly of that ilk. So
one thing I want to make completely clear, because this is a big distinction for everyone out there. This is not a movie about World of Warcraft. This is called Warcraft for a reason. There's a reason this is not called World of Warcraft the movie. This is the origin story behind the entire Warcraft franchise. So this is actually going back to closer to the 1995 video game, 94, the 1994 video game Warcraft 1. So this is going way back.
Was that a good place to start for the movie, and not
at the beginning? I think it's a lovely place to start. I think more people should start in the beginning. It really helps move things along to the end when you throw a middle in there somewhere, and you start at the beginning, go through the middle, and you end at the end. It's wonderful.
Yeah, but look at Star Wars. They started in the middle and they went backwards and around and all. They circumvented.
Were they pulling from a source material?
Actually, there was no Star Wars game at the time, so
there was no novel, there was no book. They made it up as they went, so they can start wherever they want.
Okay, all right. Well, anyway, it's coming out June the 10th, and I definitely will catch the movie when it comes out. Maybe we'll go together and see it. All right. So that's that, and I think it's back to you, Ben.
I think so, even though I feel like I did most of the work on that last one. So I think we are going to move right along into, all right, Facebook. It's huge. There's no way around it. I feel like it's this huge, unbeatable thing at this point, because they have about 1.6 billion users, or so they claim. Obviously, there may be duplicates in there and fake accounts, but still 1.6 billion users is an incredible feat. And I'm sure everyone out there, when you use Facebook for things like business and whatnot, you really start to hear some weird stories. And here is the story. This one from Ars Technica in the UK. But an apartment block demands that the tenants who live there give a Facebook like within 5 days, or else they get evicted.
Jeez.
So, again, Facebook is this huge thing. Tons and tons and tons of people, let alone your probable future clientele. So you want to make sure you have a positive online presence. And one way of getting that is by coercing your tenants, apparently, because that can never backfire on you. So again, Ars Technica UK and Mr. Joe Mullen. And remember the Florida apartment complex that got a lot of attention for giving tenants a contract banning harsh online reviews? Well, a Utah apartment, here we go, Utah. A Utah apartment complex is going one better. Instead of squelching negative reviews, owners of the complex are trying to coerce tenants into giving positive feedback. So last week, tenants at City Park Apartments, located in Salt Lake City, received a Facebook addendum posted on their doors outlining what's expected of them. Most jarring was a requirement that they friend the complex within 5 days. And of course, the predictable results are already rolling in. Rather than a flood of likes, the City Park Apartments contract became a story on the local television station, and by Sunday, the Associated Press picked up the story and made it national. That's probably not what the apartment complex was looking for, when they were probably just looking for, let's face it, a couple dozen Facebook likes. Instead, it went national, and now the complex has gotten the positive feedback it hoped for. Instead, it has racked up over 800 one-star reviews on an unofficial Facebook page. Wow. So they have a quote here saying from a tenant who actually lives there, saying, "I don't want to be forced to be someone's friend and be threatened to break my lease because of that. It's outrageous as far as I'm concerned." And that makes a lot of sense, because who wants to be forced into doing something online that, hey, let's face it, you may put no value in whatsoever, but you may lose your house because of it. So for good measure, the addendum bans negative reviews as well. So you can't even do that.
So legal. I don't think this is even legal. You can.
Well, again, not a lawyer, so can't tell you if it's legal or not. But certainly, it's a bad move on their part. You definitely don't want to threaten people, kicking them out on the street just for doing it, regardless of legality or not.
Well, they say that in the next paragraph, that it really isn't legal.
Right. So as Craig was saying, in general, contracts that require customers to give up their rights to review services haven't held up in court. The contracts themselves can get companies into legal trouble. In 2003, so 13 years ago, a New York judge found that a contract barring customers from publishing reviews of software programs without prior consent violated the state's unfair competition law. So the document also includes a release allowing the complex to post pictures of tenants and their visitors on Facebook. That's creepy. So, yep, they obviously did not respond for inquiries by any of the media, but regardless, it's drawn a lot of response and a lot of comments, on Facebook and other places, that are obviously going to side not with the apartment complex, who were looking for an easy get, I'm sure, from their point of view, for positive online reviews.
Yeah.
Instead, they were flooded with negative reviews, because that was a bad move.
Not what they were looking for. Okay. Okay, here's an interesting story here. This is, again, medical technology. This is from Popular Science. Injectable gunshot treatment, XStat, saves its first life. This is called they're calling it the miraculous medical sponge in a syringe. Now, it goes on to say, you've probably seen XStat a few times in the last couple of years. It's a laughably simple-looking tool used to treat puncture wounds, specifically gunshot wounds in emergency situations. The premise is simple. Dozens of compressed sponges are injected into a wound with a plunger-based device that is essentially half syringe, half tampon applicator. The sponges rapidly expand as they absorb blood and effectively crowd the open wound, applying pressure that reduces or even stops bleeding. And it works in real life. Really. This is cool. The case, which was reported to the Journal of Emergency Medical Services, says that the device stopped femoral artery bleeding when essentially no other treatment seemed to work. Clamps, otherwise, you couldn't do it. This thing works. This is really cool. XStats had a quick rise to success. It was announced in February of 2014 and only given FDA approval in December of 2015. We know at least one person plus a team of doctors and family said who are happy it's around. So just to mention this thing, if you're watching the live video stream, you can see a picture of it. It looks like, as it says, a large hypodermic full of sponges, but it works. Isn't that neat? I think it's very cool. Very clever. Very clever. That we will mention here.
I actually remember doing that story about it getting FDA approval, where gunshot wounds or any other massive trauma where there's bleeding internally, that you inject the stuff, it expands very quickly, absorbs, as much as it can, and, really stops the bleeding almost immediately. So I remember doing the story about this and how useful it would be for, say, first responders, ambulances and things like that. And it's good to see it saved its first life, because let's face it, if you're bleeding out after a terrible car accident and someone pulls up, you don't want, just a belt and them trying putting their hands over it. Right. You want something like this that's going to, for sure, stop the bleeding.
Yep. Very cool. Very cool.
Very cool indeed. So, where do you go from there? Let us turn to, I think it was I think it was kind of a joke when it was first announced, but they're actually doing it. So I don't know if it's a joke anymore. So this one from Engadget and Australia, where this whole thing originated from. Australia puts traffic lights in the ground to alert phone addicts. So, yeah, you heard that right. So New South Wales is worried a car will hit you while you're checking Facebook. So the German city of Augsburg has already tried putting traffic lights in the ground to keep cell phone obsessed pedestrians from walking onto train tracks. But the Australian state of New South Wales wants to take things one step further. It tells Mashable that it's going to install ground-based traffic lights at key crosswalks in Sydney as part of a trial starting in December. So, and again, likely in its business district.
Yeah.
So the aim, unsurprisingly, is to prevent the unpleasant encounter with a car while you're busy texting your friends.
Right.
The unpleasant encounter actually means getting hit with a car. So, read that correctly. So there's no mention of how quickly these lights would expand if the trial goes forward, but it's easy to see them popping up at many busy intersections if they take off. After all, we live in a world where phone fans sometimes get their own sidewalk lanes. Lights are just the next logical step. And the reference to their own sidewalk lanes, they've actually started making sidewalks with like little painted lanes where if you want to kind of walk and text at the same time, because obviously you move slower, you kind of keep it to your lane and it lets faster non-texting pedestrians walk past you.
Very interesting.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess it's good. I would highly advise everyone out there to, look when you're around cars. It's very, very deadly. But if this is what it takes, it's not hard to see why they would do it.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, we've all seen the YouTube videos of a woman walking into a fountain and distracted, just totally distracted, and that doesn't mean that it can't happen. At a crosswalk intersection, you're not paying attention, you get hit by a bus. So anything to make that not happen would be a good thing. Here's a story. This is from a CNET. Here's a monitor that's from Dell. It's a 43-inch monitor that's actually 4 monitors in one. It's their 43 ultra high definition 4K multi-client monitor. It sells for like $1,350. Why would you want this? Because, why have 4 monitors in one? And I think basically, they're saying, well, you've always wanted a desktop covered with monitors, your own personal command center, watch the game, play Xbox at the same time. But actually hooking up multiple monitors could be a logistical nightmare. And enter in this monitor, a 43-inch 4K screen with 4 video inputs, so you can have 4 screens in one. It's actually 4 screens in one. But what they're saying is, while it's great for games and everything, it's really, really designed for people who do financial tracking, financial traders and developers who need charts and graphs or a whole lot of code on the screen at any given time, So it's got the ports for other use cases as well. It's got 2 HDMI 1.4 sockets, a display port, a mini display port, and a VGA jack for legacy applications. And you can assign each port to any corner of the screen that you want. Place 2 side by side, or even fill the entire screen with the push of a button. This is again according to Dell's product page. Audio is piped to a pair of 8-watt speakers. There's a headphone jack if you need it, and but basically it should support 4K resolution at 60 hertz, fast enough for many PC games. I don't know if this is something that a PC gamer would really want, though. Ben, did you find this attractive?
My problem with it is it would have to be, because 4 monitors sounds nice. It's just having them in the side by side, kind of square shape doesn't really appeal to me because, when you're looking dead on at your monitor, technically you're going to be looking at that little cross section right in the middle of all four. If they were kind of reorganized a little bit more, where you have your primary, because I feel like people with multiple setups, they have a primary monitor and then they have the secondary or your third monitor, or however many extra monitors you have. They have extra monitors that supplement but are not your primary focus. So to me, it doesn't really appeal because it doesn't have exactly one main monitor that you can kind of focus on. It has, 4. It's just not an ideal setup for entertainment. It's not an ideal setup for video games. It's not an ideal setup for really anything other than a professional setting.
Yeah, I think so. I think that it's what it's. If you're, I could see this at a stockbroker, a stock office.
Well, you can say that because you're looking at the picture of this gentleman sitting here looking at stocks.
But I think it's really, I think it's geared to this type of thing. Looking at multiple charts. Although technically you could do it with software. You could you could just have a large 53-inch screen, and just have the software divided into 4 different corners. But I guess the whole point of this is that you don't have to have specialized software to do it. You can just you have 4 monitors and you have 4 inputs coming from 4 different sources. I don't think there's anything else. I don't think there's anything else quite like this. So if you have a need for something like this, 4 separate inputs, 4 different display corners, it probably would make a lot of sense.
It's just it's kind of like television. When you are there are these models of television, it's like, oh, you can watch 4 different news streams at once. You can watch 4 different sporting events at once. It's like when you actually get down to it and want to watch the news or watch sports, you're not going to watch it picture by picture by picture by picture. You're going to watch one thing on your primary field of view and maybe have a second picture-in-picture in your lower right, lower left. But whatever you're doing, it needs to be very apparent, front and center. Unless you're doing work like this where, all 4 screens need your attention. Yeah,
DirecTV actually offers a feature like that. It's part of the of their, so you don't need a special screen. They'll actually give you this multicast. Uverse also offers a multicast ability.
Well, they're the same company.
Right. Well, it used to be before they both offered that feature. And the idea is that you can have up to 4 different news shows going, but you couldn't mix. It was either 4 different sports or 4 different news, but you couldn't mix and match them. And then only you would hear the audio coming out of one, and then you could select the other one. You hear the audio coming of the other, and then if you really want to focus, and you click on it, and it just comes on to full screen. But you're right. Unless you really need to monitor 4 different news stations or 4 different ball games or sporting events at the same time, I think the way the human mind works, basically, you can focus on one thing and you do it well.
That's why with my setup, I have 3 monitors, but I honestly am looking for a 4th. I am going to have my primary one, and then I have one on either side of my primary screen, and then I want one more on top of my primary screen. So everything is kind of centered around one screen. You still have your one main one that you play video games on, that you kind of focus on when you're doing Computer America. One thing that you really focus on, and the others are just there that at a glance you get other information.
Okay, all right, makes sense. I think this is sort of in line with this. But anyway, it's available. It's a $1,400 monitor, and it's available from Dell. So if you think this is something that might appeal to you, it is available.
All right. And man, so little time. How about we do this one real quick? And actually, wrong one. All right. How about we do this one real quick, where we talk about the Atari? They haven't made the news lately.
Yeah.
But they have their own Internet of Things device, where Atari is actually planning on releasing an Internet of Things device. So it's partnering with a company called Sigfox and to make connected home, pet, lifestyle, and safety products. So according to Sigfox, the company will license the Atari brand and slap it on a range of connected home, pet, lifestyle, and safety products, all of which will connect directly to Sigfox's wireless network rather than to the internet directly. So Sigfox's network will currently only work in Europe and the US. It's typically used for relaying small chunks of information infrequently, such as data from an electricity monitor. So yeah, according to Engadget, the two companies will have a mass market and the charity sector and devices providing function such as GPS tracking. So Atari, not what you hope for, but you're going to see the brand name come around, and you know that it's because the two companies are actually partnering together, and I guess Atari has enough of a presence that their name still holds some kind of weight.
All right. Well, cool. We are just about out of time here. Again, I want to thank Mike Cermak for being with us in the first hour. Coming up tomorrow, we're going to actually have a company called Bang Holdings Incorporated. This is interesting. This is a company that's identified opportunities in the marijuana industry and that are not being fully capitalized upon. And what they're exploring non-traditional and digital marketing techniques to expand into a multi-billion-dollar market. We're going to have the company's CEO, Steve Burke, is going to be joining us here in the first hour. And then the second hour, we'll have more computer and technology news brought to you by Slimware Utilities, the official optimization software of Computer America. Hey, that's going to be an interesting show, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. That wraps it up. Thank you all for being here with us today. And Ben and I are going to see you here. Same place, same time, and the same station. So until tomorrow afternoon, this is Craig Crossman, hoping that your hard disk never becomes floppy. We'll see you tomorrow.
Have a good one, everyone.
Woohoo!
10 seconds. Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Okay, again, everybody, thanks for watching, and Ben and I will see you here tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.